Welcome to the Lit Marriage Podcast with authors and Christian relationship coaches Cassidy and Daniela Parlane. On this podcast, you will discover how to transform your marriage from autopilot mode to keeping the flame of purpose, passion, and romance lit in the marriage that God designed for you to have. Learn to love intentionally together. Are you ready to keep it lit? Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Lit Marriage Podcast. We are your hosts, Cassidy
And Daniela.
And today, folks, we want to talk to you about money talk.
Because we all know when you talk about money,
people get funny. And so, why don't we just dive right into this conversation by starting off with a little bit of personal background on why we are so sold on this principle or the principles that we're about to talk about. So for those of you who are tuning in, maybe you know a little bit about our past. I guess I'll speak for myself, but you can also
chime in.
Yeah, from time to time, right? So again, those of you who are listening, for the first time, you might not know this about us, but we have both been in a failed marriage. So this is our second marriage. And, at one point we were ashamed to talk about this. And there are many reasons why there's this stigma surrounding remarriage in the church. But that's not what we'll be talking about today, because that's a conversation for another time, right?
Yeah.
But the reason I'm mentioning that is in my previous marriage, we had a lot of money issues.
That's right.
A lot. And we know that money is one of those things, they say anyway, is one of the number one reason couples divorce, separate, or all of the above, right? And so it was definitely one of the issues, one of the driving forces that caused my first marriage to fall apart. And I had no concept personally on how to manage money. And I'm just speaking from personal experience, right? This is not the same for everyone. But maybe you're a good money manager and maybe you understand how to budget and all that good stuff, but maybe your spouse doesn't, maybe your spouse is a spender or a squanderer or someone who is a gambler, and just you don't jive very well in terms of the area of finances. And, I've discovered throughout the years that when you have your finances worked out, that a lot of other areas in your marriage will begin to come in alignment. So I'll stop there with I just gave you sort of the nitty-gritty of what happened in my past, but you can go ahead and talk a little bit about yours as well.
Yeah, it was basically very similar to that. We did not have our accounts merged in my previous marriage.
Right.
So there was a lot of the things that you mentioned. There was a lot of gambling, squandering, spending from the other side. And I was kind of the more prudent one who was always trying to keep things in check, kind of like the home administrator, but we were always in the default every single month, and it was just very hard to catch up and keep up. But one thing that we both learned, I think, through this was not so much whether it was a money issue or a money management issue per se, even though it's definitely part of it. What we learned was it's a heart issue.
Absolutely.
There's a root that goes beyond
right.
the financial sector, if you want to call it that.
Or what you can see on the physical.
Right. It's just something that manifests as money problems.
Right.
And this is what we personally learned in both of our past marriage experiences. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And when you couple that with kind of getting into the Word and seeing what God has to say about marriage, we were, I guess if we were to call it one word, if we were to give it this principle a word, we would call it the one flesh principle.
Absolutely. And there's a saying that you always say about, if you can share your bed,
then why not your bank account
or your body? Right.
The most intimate part of yourself.
Yes. And so why don't we dive right into some hard, I guess, this hard conversation. It's really, yes, it is. Kind of counterintuitive, especially to what the culture propagates regarding money. Right. And let's just say that this is not a one size fits all, right? But it can be a one size fits all if you apply the principle. That's because we've discovered this, right? That principles are such that you can try to break them, but eventually that principle will break you, because principles, they work when you implement them.
They're a law. They're basically a universal law. So you, just like any other universal law, you try to break it, guess what? You try to walk off that cliff and you think that I'm going to defy the laws of gravity or density. Well, guess what? It's going to break you because you're going to fall. Right? So it's kind of, that's how laws work, right? Principles work the same way.
Exactly. So I know that there are some of you out there and you might not agree with what we are about to say. Let's just say, for those of you who are listening, that it's important that you hear from somebody who you would say they failed. They messed up, and they can show you pitfalls. They can show you
some red flags.
Yes, red flags, and open your eyes to your blind spots.
That's right.
And money, the area of money, there are so many blind spots that that comes along. These blind spots, I mean, they're everywhere. So let's talk about this one. And that's the idea or a concept of having not just a checking account or a joint checking account where it's like, yeah, all the bills come out of this one account, but yet we have our own separate account, even though we've been married for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, even 20 years of marriage, and you still have separate accounts. And I know what some of you might be thinking right now. Well, what do you mean? Like, can't we have our separate accounts? There's nothing wrong with having separate accounts, other than the fact that, as mentioned off the top of our conversation, is that it opens the door for mistrust.
It's really like the opportunities, really, is what we want to talk about. It creates opportunities for that lack of trust or lack of transparency. Really.
Absolutely.
And what we're trying to say is, why not just eliminate those opportunities altogether?
Right.
And then you're creating an environment where that's not even possible.
Right.
So it's basically like you see a pitfall there and you're like, no, I'm not going to step in it. But the pitfall's still there. It's like you could accidentally at some point or come so close to it that you slide into the pitfall.
Right.
Why not just put the fence there?
So
not go in altogether. Just eliminate it.
Let me ask you this. Why merge the finances?
Well, some of the positive things that we have experienced from doing this is just like we're saying, the lack of opportunity for secrecy,
Right.
right? Everything is transparent. We can see everything that goes in and out.
Right.
It's
So
just
basically, we're keeping each other accountable. Right.
absolutely. And it creates this team kind of environment because we both feel equally responsible
Right.
for what goes in and out of the account, how that money is used.
Right.
It's not what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours.
Or
It's-
what's mine is mine, and what's mine is
yours?
yours. What's yours is mine.
No, it's basically it's all yours and mine. Like it's ours. Ours.
Right.
And that's another thing we're intentional about.
Right.
We've mentioned this before. We try not to use you, me, but we try to start conversations with we.
Right.
We need to take out the garbage.
Meaning
Or we.
you.
Me, even if I really mean you. But it just kind of softens the
approach.
The approach.
It doesn't seem argumentative or threatening or
accusatory.
exactly
or divisive.
Right.
So we imagine what kind of impact that can have on your finances when you come together. You don't have that impetus, I guess you can call it, to feel as though, oh, this is my little egg nest over here. Like
Right.
this is, I earned it. This is my money. And it's very easy to develop this attitude that says, well, she has no say in it. This is my little pot. You do what you want with yours. And
Right.
this is my little, and then think about what that can lead to. It's all little kind of doorways that can possibly, I'm not saying always, or that it's for sure.
Right.
Definitely. But these are just possibilities to think about. And they can sneak up on you. Like, oh, well, I earned it. So maybe I'm going to take this money and I'm going to put it towards this thing that I want. And it's very easy to create this, this mindset this yours and mine mindset,
Right.
which we want to try to eliminate that as much as possible in the marriage, because
Right.
as the word says in the book of Genesis, is when
two
you're married, the
becomes
two
one.
become one flesh,
Yeah.
right? And you want to live that way as much as possible.
Right. So the idea that a person would say, well, when you work, your paycheck goes in your account, and when I work, my paycheck goes in my account,
Mm-hmm.
and then we allocate the funds into the checking account as needed.
To pay the bills,
Right.
and
We
this
send-
and that, and the savings.
Right. So what's wrong with that is really what I'm assuming maybe somebody is asking this
Right.
question right now.
I think it's not necessarily the question, the way the question is framed. It's not that something's necessarily wrong with it, but what could go wrong. We're coming from that kind of angle, like what could go wrong, and
Right.
why not eliminate the could go wrongs? I mean, let's face it, don't we have enough things that come at our marriage, like that come at marriage in general?
Right.
Why add other potential threats when you can just eliminate them?
A prime example of that is there was a report that came out this week that is stunning, beyond stunning. And when you first told me about it, it was about a spiritual leader who has now, well, he's already dead and gone, but there are some rumors that just sort of came out about this person, these allegations from just some really bad stuff, right?
Right.
And the thing is, the church as we know it suffers tremendously when especially great leaders who commit these horrendous crimes, if you may. And the reason I'm mentioning this, I'm definitely going to bring it back to our conversation here, but one thing that we have analyzed from that situation is the fact that this person, had these secrets
That's right. Secret.
Was literally
secret accounts,
living a
phone, secret.
living a double life.
And there you go. One could ask, well, what's wrong with having a separate account, or what's wrong with having a separate phone or a separate? You see, it's not the thing. It's not that it's wrong having those things. It's what wrong could come out of it.
Right.
Right? It's like
Right.
saying, okay, let's just totally change it up a bit, just to give a different analogy.
Right.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, my husband he works at the office all day, and there is a coworker there who's a female. He spends a lot of time at the office, and by default, they spend a lot of time together. Well, is there anything like wrong with that situation? Just the fact that they are in that environment together? I wouldn't say that there's something wrong in that in itself.
Right.
But it's the opportunities that could come up. So those are situations where we need boundaries, so
Right.
that we know, okay, what are those boundaries? Okay, maybe do not have certain conversations, personal conversations with each other that could lead to like an emotional affair, because we
Right.
know that it can start with an emotional affair and then it becomes
Right.
where one thing leads to another. We've all heard this before. So when you want to apply that, I know you might be thinking, oh, what's that have to do with money? Oh, just hang in there, because
the optics in itself is definitely suspicious.
yeah,
Right.
it has a lot to do with just transparency,
Right.
accountability, and boundaries, really. So you want to create no opportunities.
So what if
Eliminate the opportunity for any kind of secrecy that
what
could...
if the person, one individual in the marriage is saying, well, I would like my own account for these particular reasons. One, I gotta get my hair did, right? I gotta have my personal things that I need to do with my money. See the problem there? My money.
See, already the...
Hold on.
I'm seeing it, honey.
Right?
I'm seeing it.
So, plus, what if I want to buy a Christmas gift, or what if I want to buy something for my spouse and I don't want them to know that I'm buying it and it's a surprise, right?
Okay, if they're constantly snooping at the account to see what they're buying, they got a problem. They might be a little neurotic. Yeah, there might be another problem there.
So, do you understand? There are people out there. They hold dear to these beliefs, these I guess you would say lifestyle that they have been used to from their single life.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
So they're bringing their single mentality into a marriage where you are becoming one now, or should be
Right.
becoming one with your spouse.
Right. So
And that can definitely cause tension and
absolutely
problems arise.
But here's the thing. The mentality that we've seen a lot is, because I've always done it this way, why should I change now? Right? And we're just offering right now a very simple and practical solution to rectifying or resolving the potential of any kind of just future issues that could pop up, because money is one of those things, and we want you to understand this. Money is one of the great revealer of hearts. And a person and how their character is revealed through money.
When
dealings.
you touch someone's money, okay, you're gonna know them. If you
Exactly.
haven't known them, you about to know them on another level quickly.
Right. And so this is the thing that we want to bring across to you today that are listening. Maybe some of the things that we're saying to you can relate to. And maybe some of these things you're saying, yeah, I'll put that up on the shelf until another time, because no, not right now, things are it's just complicated. And like finances is, like we said, it's one of those things, when you get it right, many other areas in your life, in your marriage, will begin to fall into place.
Yeah.
And perhaps your marriage is in chaos right now, or something is brewing, right? And you know that it's a money issue that is causing this potential storm that is brewing in your marriage.
You might even not even realize that there's something that it's not money that's really the problem, but it's manifesting as if it's a money problem.
Right.
Because all your decisions, think about it, when you're both mutually sitting down and making decisions together about financial issues and where to spend the money and how to spend it, now you're putting yourself in a place that's challenging.
Yep.
But challenge is good, because now it's forcing you to see as a team.
Right.
Now you're making those decisions together. Should we buy this? Should we, spend on this? Should we be saving for this? And rather than thinking in the mindset, okay, I'm going to put my 2 cents, you put your 2 cents, and the rest is mine. It's a totally different outlook.
Right.
You're going to have a very different outlook on everything, because now everything that is mine is yours. Everything that's yours is mine. And you just eliminate the whole mine and yours.
Wow.
And you actually learn to let go of things.
Yes.
You really do.
Doesn't it cause us to become totally selfless?
Yes. It's the best way to practice selflessness. You test anybody. You touch someone's money. You go touch your spouse's money right now, okay? Go reach for his wallet. See how he reacts. I mean,
right.
It's a real test.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So what are some practical things that we can leave with our listeners today? Because some things that are really popping out at me, I know we talked about the, transparency and how important it is to be transparent in your finances. So let's talk about, some practical things that we can leave our listeners with today. One of the things that I want to just reiterate right now is that money is a great revealer of hearts. And so if you want to be transparent with your spouse, you got to come clean with money. There cannot be any secrecy. There cannot be any secret stashes here or there.
It's also very easy to create vices that are secret, right?
Yes.
Like, let's say there was an addiction. I know this is kind of veering a little bit, but let's say that one of you suffers, you're trying to quit smoking. It's very easy to not have accountability when you can just quietly use your stash to go buy a pack of smokes, and the wifey doesn't know about it, or I'm just gonna go buy myself that thing that he doesn't really know about. It's very easy, like those little things, and you're gonna convince yourself, you're gonna justify those purchases. Yeah. Trust me, you will. Oh, I just had to go buy that $200 purse, or I had to go, it might seem harmless, but it could lead to a vice or a weakness that might creep up maybe from your past. That's very easy to hide because you're using your secret stash.
Right. More importantly, not only are you dishonoring your spouse, but you are dishonoring God, because if you are doing anything that potentially could cause a blow up in your marriage, that's not just dishonoring your spouse. And it should really cause us to pause in this moment and really think about this, that, wow, I could be dishonoring God by the way how I'm operating. But even as spouses right now, like, you could be dishonoring God in how you are managing your finances, because stewardship is so important to God. The Bible talks a lot about money. We don't really think about this a lot, but the Bible speaks so much
usually about giving it, not saving and taking it or keeping it.
Right. So
tithing, giving your first fruits.
Yeah. So there's a lot of scriptures that deal with money, and Jesus talked a lot about money too, right? So it's not to say that we're being dogmatic about this thing, but we really want to come at you in a very practical sense that you can have some takeaway from this conversation today. So really examine your hearts, really see where you are financially as a couple, and really begin to assess how to navigate a little bit differently going forward, especially in this new year, right? Maybe it's time to just declare over your marriage that we're going to do things differently going forward. There's no way we can continue going in the same direction that we're going in right now and achieve anything. You know what I mean? Like, do you have financial goals? These are some things that you really need to ask yourselves. You know, you got to have financial goals. You gotta have you gotta set yourselves up in such a way that you're leaving something behind for your children. That's and right. You know, like all these different things. There are couples out there who you don't have life insurance. And this is important, you know, like I know this might not sound like a money issue to you, but God forbid if you were to pass on today, it will become a money issue, because now you're leaving behind not just a debt load that you've accumulated while you were here, but now you haven't left anything for your loved ones who are left behind. If you understand what I'm saying, right? So these are things to consider as well. And I think one of the things that I would also like to share is that it's important to sit down and really write things out on paper.
Totally.
Yeah, you need a roadmap. You got to see where you are and see where you want to get.
And revisit that roadmap from time to time together.
I agree.
Don't just write it down and then it gets forgotten somewhere at the bottom of the drawer and you don't look at it for 10 years.
I agree. You know,
even have a vision board maybe where you just pin it on there and you can look at it. You can have these conversations with your spouse. Talk
about it. You know, did you know that there are 5 types of intimacy, and one of them is financial intimacy? So if you guys can get your finances in order, oh, how hot would that be in the bedroom?
Oh, yes. You may not see the correlation, but believe me, there's a correlation.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, because it all leads to that intimacy, right? You want to remove wedges, remove separation and secrets and hiding and mine and your pile. You want to come together. And the more you come together, the more intimacy happens in all different areas of your life, and then that leads to more space in the bedroom, doesn't it, baby?
Hallelujah.
Yes. Praise the Lord.
The Lord. And one of the things I want to leave with you guys today is this: that whenever your finances are out of whack, whenever they're not working in the way in which they should, it causes you to have wrong motives and wrong focus, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
So there's no real focus, and as a result of that, you see people making purchases and you're wondering, where are your priorities?
Yeah, because you're not thinking of the we or the us. You're thinking of me, my money. So, you know, what I'm going to do, what I want. You tend to be very self-focused.
Yeah.
It's just too easy to become that way. And it's just more work to think in terms of what's best for the family or the family, the marriage, you know? So, yeah, when you come together, it just naturally flows.
Yes.
Where you see the whole, you know, the finances as one unit.
Right.
Like, this is just another unit. How can we better
But this is what happens.
Steward this thing.
I do you notice the what happens when you and I unite together and we decide to put our minds together and make things work?
It's a powerful thing. Yes.
Yeah. God placed you together for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to learn how to teamwork in this area of your marriage. And if you're already doing this, God bless you. But there are others out there who are still struggling in this area. And maybe this podcast, maybe you know somebody who this podcast could help.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's just another strategy to get you ahead of the game, really.
Again, when your finances are in order,
remove all that hinders, as Paul would say. Yes, that can apply to this too. Yes, it does. Hallelujah.
What a weight.
It's a weight. Why? Just release the weights and strive forward, for the prize. Even on this earth, there are things that we need to accomplish on this earth while we're here.
Absolutely.
And why have hindrances that can slow us down or cause, the last thing you want is friction in your marriage.
And also, even if you're in debt, like one of the fastest ways to get out of debt is to merge your finances.
Oh, yes.
And to really just work that thing.
Both work at it together. Two are always better than one.
How many years we stayed out of debt for a very, very long time?
Until we bought a house, but
right. But a mortgage is honestly one of those, what they would say is a good debt versus a bad debt or consumer debt, right?
It's an investment.
But it's so important to strive to be debt free. The freedom that comes with that.
Absolutely.
You remember those times we were going through, we saw difficult times in our marriage, but we were debt free, and oh my goodness, we just sailed through it.
Absolutely. And dare I say that even when you encounter difficult situations, especially in those situations, when you're following God's principles, He does bless that.
Absolutely.
So you might be thinking, oh, well, we're doing well the way that we're doing it. We're not struggling. But you know what? Somebody who might be making way less than you, but they're following God's principles, may get way further ahead than you
Absolutely.
are. Because why? Because they're following God's principles. Yeah. It's really that simple.
Because we've seen it where they're making so much money, more money than they know what to do with it, but they're in so much debt up to their neck.
Right, or it's not really being used efficiently.
Right.
It's not going where it should be going.
Right.
Right? God has just a way to maximize what you have. He can take the little bit that you have,
Absolutely.
And He can just excel that thing. So
Absolutely.
I don't get it. It's God math, but He can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so when you honor Him by honoring your marriage like that, and really reflecting Him on the earth, because you are one flesh, right?
I've
it's
also
amazing what He
seen
will
it.
do.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I've also seen it where people try to sew their way out of debt. But we gotta understand that God sees the heart.
It's all about the heart.
And He sees our motives. He sees that we think that we can manipulate Him through sewing.
Nope. That's not what we're talking about.
That's not the kind of principle that works with God. No. People think, well, I'm just gonna sow into that ministry over there, sow into that thing there, and
God's going to give me the rub the genie lamp. Nope.
You see what I'm getting at?
This ain't no prosperity gospel, people.
No, that's not what we're getting at around here. The Bible says, yes, to give and it shall be given unto you. But we also have to understand that when we're giving, we have to do that from a pure
heart.
Pure conscience, pure heart, and with good motives, right motives. Right. And that's how God will bless us.
And right motives is never, I'm going to sow money and I'm going to get stuff.
Exactly.
God's going to give me stuff.
Exactly.
Right? It's all about the kingdom and what does God want to do with me right now.
And even if God doesn't bless you in this lifetime,
we're
remember,
storing up them treasures in heaven, baby.
All right. You see what I'm getting at? That's a good closure today.
Absolutely.
Even if God doesn't bless you when you, when I say bless you, I'm talking about financially, like give you more, the exceedingly, the abundantly kind of blessing here on earth.
He'll always provide, though.
Absolutely.
Even if you may not get that Mercedes in your driveway, but he'll always provide.
Absolutely.
He'll always.
Absolutely. He's faithful that way.
That's right.
And we're telling you this from stuff that we are living.
Yep.
We're living it. And I know that there are many out there who they do not share this radical approach. Mm-hmm. But sometimes in life you have to be radical in your approach. When I say radical, I'm not talking about you're just dogmatic and you're just like, if you don't do this right, our way, it's our way or the highway kind of thing. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying sometimes
there's a simpler way.
It's simple. It's simple,
practical,
but it's radical.
It is.
In the sense that when you do it, it will work for you. Mm-hmm. So this is why we're so adamant about this, and the fact that we've been at a place of failure. People think that if you have failed, then you have nothing to offer. Lies.
And you know what? If the culture's progressive ways were that great, you wouldn't see the worst divorce rate in history.
Right.
Like we're seeing today.
Right.
And you know what? Some things we can learn from the bad things of the past, but we can also learn from the good things. Absolutely. And one of the good things that we see, if we examine patterns and historical, occurrences in the past, we see that marriages, historically, traditionally, this is a principle that worked because of the way homes were.
Right.
Back in time, it was usually one income, and it was all shared, and the decisions were kind of made within that household. And marriages tended to last a lot longer.
Right.
And
so we just want to encourage you out there who are listening, if there's anything that really stood out to you today, please feel free to reach out to us, right?
Anytime.
Yes. We're here to talk, as you can see. We appreciate you listening in to the Lit Marriage Podcast. Again, if you know anyone that this podcast would benefit, please share this episode. Go ahead and share it with a friend right now, or with a family member. And reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at makeyourmarriagegreatagain.ca. Or you can go to our website, makeyourmarriagegreatagain.ca. Thank you guys again so much for listening. Until next time, keep it
lit.
God bless you.